Welcome everyone to the August 2025 OpenZFS Leadership Summit or call. Thanks everybody for joining. I guess first I wanted to remind everybody about the upcoming OpenZFS User and Developer Summit. So Matt has posted the call for papers to the ZFS mailing list. So you can easily find this on the openZFS.org wiki page. But in general, we're having our User and Developer Summit October 25th to 28th. So over the Saturday and Sunday will be the user conference, and the Monday and Tuesday will be the Developer Summit. But everyone's welcome to come for all of it. And so as part of that, they have a CFP where if you would like to talk about some of the interesting work you're doing on ZFS or planning to and so on, that we would love to get the talk proposals for those in. The deadline is September 12th. And then by the 19th, we will notify all those that have been selected and get a schedule up on the website. Does anybody have any questions about the User or Developer Summit? No. All right, then. Moving on, does anybody have any specific topics they want to touch on first? Maybe Alan, did you have something you wanted to talk about specifically today?
Well, I did. I put it in the agenda item. It's that PR related to the data corruption.
The 17418 or a different one?
Probably. I'm not looking at the agenda right now.
Okay, sorry. The locking of
Yes.
DB-MTX? Yeah, okay.
Yep, that one.
Yep. So yeah, maybe we can start there.
Yeah, so the last status on that is that Alexander Button reviewed it, but he wasn't confident that the locking was quite right. And the PR is based on comments from Paul Daniel, but Paul was also not confident that the locking was quite right. And for that matter, I'm not either. ZFS, Alan, doesn't use RAI, so locking is not really part of the design, really. Nobody knows exactly how it's supposed to work. The only thing I do know for sure is that the code in this PR does definitely fix the corruption. So we need to decide what to do. Can we commit it as is, or do I need to change it? Now, the only constraint is that if I change the code, it's pretty hard for me to test those changes. So I can't test very many different sets of changes. Which means I don't really want to do it unless somebody has a good theoretical reason to explain why what I'm doing is wrong and I should do something different.
I guess for that, somebody still need to get deeper into that code to understand how it's supposed to work. That the change obviously is big and takes a lot of logs, which may or may not fix something, maybe just by coincidence, or maybe you indeed fix something, but just generally without a proper understanding, it's hard to approve. So yeah, we do need somebody to dive into that and to try to review it. Yeah, I was reviewing some other things. I'll try to get to this one. So I agree it's important, but that's all I can say at this point. But I was hesitant to merge as it is just from points how massive it is and how we don't have an understanding what exactly are we fixing.
I know I've gotten spoiled using Rust because all locks are RAII. It's almost impossible to lock something the wrong way. Well, lock order reversals are still possible.
I'm not so much worried about lock order as it's about locking something unneeded.
Yes.
So when you started this thread, I tried to look in the area. I found some inconsistencies we do have, but not that we miss something dramatically that we would need to lock so much more.
How can we prove that any one of those lock acquisitions is unneeded? I think you or somebody else proved a couple of them were unneeded in the first version of the review, and I fixed those, but there's still a lot more.
Yeah, we need to look again. I need to or somebody else too.
Alan, can you tell us a little bit more about the crash and the corruption it actually causes?
Yes, so the corruption happens when you're writing an L1 block or sometimes an L2. And what actually makes it to disk is an L1 block or an L0 block pointer that's just wrong. Any one field of the block pointer might be incorrect, but the checksum on the entire L1 block is correct. So a scrub cannot detect the corruption.
Mm-hmm.
To the scrub, it looks like an EIO error because you couldn't fetch the data from the L0 block. Actually, it
Because
depends.
it's the L1 is just pointing off to nowhere or something
Yeah,
invalid.
yeah. Sometimes the L1's compression field is wrong. Sometimes the DVA, sometimes it doesn't have a DVA. So you write a block pointer with no DVA, or sometimes something else is wrong. So what the user sees is sometimes the scrub will catch it if like the checksum field is wrong, or sometimes you'll get an EIO error when you try to read that sector.
Yeah, this is sounding a bit like another one I saw Alexander looking at earlier, where people were getting an EIO on their, or maybe an echecksum on their dedupe DDT. And we were wondering where that might have come from. And I'm wondering if that could be the same thing of an indirect block having some invalid field causing then to not be able to read from the DDT. And, you know, all the dedupe code has verify 0 on the return of a bunch of those lookups. I wonder if that's maybe related to this.
Yeah.
And then we saw another one that was, you know, in the debug message, we would see a bunch of things like, you know, an invalid checksum value and just other things that seemed wrong with the DVA and an indirect block. And I guess that might be the same thing.
Yes, there were a few panics that were also possible. I fixed
Mm-hmm.
those due to things like not having a DVA.
Yeah.
I also saw another bug report on the GitHub request where a user found exactly the same corruption. And in his case, I think he had a very little RAM configured. But we have tons of RAM, so
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I've never been able to figure out what triggers the bug.
No, I may not speak right about it since it was a while since I looked at last time, but my feeling, well, my memories from earlier look was that you're trying to lock it in general case, like any modification to any data block should be protected by lock. And it's in case of indirect block, it may be just overkill because we shouldn't modify indirect block from any context. We should modify it only during syncing, and there are somewhat different rules. That's, if I remember correctly, that's where I saw that it's overkill and it's too much. But yeah, we may need to look how exactly indirect block modify it and if it can happen in any case where we do need lock. But that's, as I told, that's why I think it's overkill since it should not be that parallel. And the amount of locking we should have now, I think, should be sufficient. But yeah, I'll need another loop. I try to do it nearest days.
I added like 24 lock acquisitions in the PR, and probably only one or two of them is really required. I don't know which
Yeah,
one.
exactly. But that's to the point of we don't understand what do we need. Like we should not try to lock every data block access just because we want to protect indirect blocks, because many data block accesses are protected by other means, by range locks on files and the walls, by who knows what else. So just locking everything under the same lock is just overkill, I think.
Yeah, but without the easy ability to reproduce the problem, you can't easily tell which, to Alan's point, which one of the locks is the one that's actually solving the problem.
Anyway, so I think the conclusion here is that we need someone to do more research into the entire debuff locking mechanism. Alexander, are you volunteering?
I'm the one who's been there at some points, or several points. But that read-write lock, I never touched close. But yeah, I guess I had to look because I don't see it on agenda, but what I would really like is to bring up again, it's our 2.4 release schedule, which we agreed to we should branch about now, or at least it was mentioned mid-August, and it's kind of mid-August, and FreeBSD already started a release cycle, so they would really be happy to receive final version and don't receive many more updates after that. So we are already at say not we are out of time, and if anything that needs to be done, that maybe this thing. I tried to look through some other bigger things that just recently got dropped. For example, any rate, but to me it looked like it's still not ready. I commented there. I don't think it can be completed within nearest week. Yeah, correct me, Alan, if you think so. Or
I don't know if it makes sense to try to rush it. Yeah.
No, I don't know what were your release plans. Since it's obviously on disk format changes, and if not now, that it will stay in master for another year.
Yeah. So we'd probably rather push that, and we can try to get the feedback applied like very soon.
No, yeah, I would say that while we're talking about other topics today, let's just try to focus on what things we can merge into 2.4 literally right now, nearest days. I would hope to do it. And on last meeting, Brian was agreed on dates, and now we have Tony back from vacation. I hope you had a good vacation. So I guess we can all focus on the release schedule and just let's try to push whatever we can over the line. Right now we have like half dozen patches that could land, but mostly minor ones. But if we need anything more that's still under investigation, let's really focus on that. Otherwise, it will have to go later. Well, at least if it's features, not fixes. Fix we may report later, but not too much, hopefully. Yeah, as I've told, I'll try to take a look on this lock-in issue, but it's pain. Well, my last trip there didn't give me anything, so maybe I'll be more lucky this time. But I'm against global lock-in of everything around. I don't think it should be needed.
Now, to be clear, it's not a global lock. It's still just a lock in the debuff structure.
No, yeah, in debuff structure, but you extend it to every data access. Now we have all the debuff. No, it's lock acquire, drop when needed or not. Or, do we need to protect those things even at all? In many cases, in like data accesses, like it's easy to drop lock. It's much easier than to remove them. Much harder to remove them later. I have feeling that once we drop that in, it will stay forever. Because nobody will dare to remove it. That's also not exactly great. So I'll try to do my part, but I would really like somebody to deep dive to that area.
Tony, do you have specific thoughts about where we want to draw the line for 2.4?
Nothing other than I talked to Brian about it yesterday, and there weren't any like major objections to doing it either this week or next week. I think it's just a matter of saying like, okay, let's just make the tag and do it. And for past major releases, I know we've pulled in big stuff on subsequent RCs. So I don't know if we have to get everything in now, but I agree with Alex that we should try to get as much in as we can, especially if it's just little things.
Yeah, like the little ones we should kind of just decide on. I guess any raid, we'll try to iterate on that feedback as soon as possible and see where we are there. Because to Alexander's point, especially with that being an on-disk change and so on, we'd kind of really like to get that in sooner rather than later. I guess that brings up the other one. How much time have people spent looking at the label changes that we were proposing. 17.573.
No, I took some looks through it. It also looked more like a draft to it. Like in that stage, I would expect it a number of months earlier rather than now.
Right. Well, we had a conversation thread open where we talked about the design and so on for a couple of months, and then now we've implemented the first version of it.
No, it's not exactly like full implementation, as I understand. There's no much code behind it, how to read or write it, and so on. It's more like structures and ideas. And no, yeah, I left some comments.
All the reading and writing is in there, I think.
That's not how I remember it.
But it
But
has.
no, yeah, I won't insist on that part, but I did left some comments about it. One I haven't mentioned is that how do we expect to interpret all the new formats? Should we wipe previous label if when you create a new one on some disk, so that we wouldn't get two sets of labels, which would be bad. But then we would have.
So you mean like when replacing a disk?
No, yeah, reusing disk from repurposing from something else.
Well, so if they weren't already a member of the pool, so the way it works now, there's like a per vdev tag that notes if it's the new or the old label size.
No, yeah, I mean from different pool, like you have some label on location. For new location, that location is marked is some gap reserved or whatever, which ZFS usually doesn't
making sure to zero out something that might have been left over from a previous pool?
Kind of so, but same time, if we reserve that space for loader or whatever, it may be a problem if loader is already there. We would wipe it. So I don't know how to better handle that, but that's just one of the comments I haven't left on the ticket, but I had in mind. Other things I left on the ticket. So again, I think it should be improved since it's not completely future-proof. I've written there. Just look what's up. Again, it may be a bit too late now for 2.4 in that state. So.
And then I wonder if we maybe are kind of in the same situation for the slow RAID Z child feature. I know Paul did a bunch of work to improve the math there, but Brian was still seeing some MDME drives getting spurious sit-outs. And so and Paul's off this week and the first half of next week, so I don't expect we're going to get to iterate on that one very much. So I guess to Tony's point, does it make sense to look through the little things and get them merged and tagged maybe sooner than later, and then maybe have one early feature enablement point for like the next RC after that, if there's anything else that is ready, rather than holding up the initial tag?
What will it give us to have a tag that doesn't mean anything? I'm more worried that
I see what you mean too.
PrevSD already goes into our it's a code / they already are not expected to receive new features, and we would have to stretch that. If I remember, it should go till September 8th or whatever, but yeah, we may have some flexibility, but not too much.
Tony, do you have a list of what like already is going to be the new features that'll be in 2.4 that weren't in 2.3?
No, I don't have a list in front of me. I've been on vacation for like 10 weeks. I'm just kind of digging out. But I was hoping that the ZFS rewrite would be in there, but then I saw that it's in Alex's patch stack for 2.3. So
The
I
which
don't know
part?
For 2.3.4 was only a logical rewrite. So
Ah,
actual physical rewrite that has pull feature goes for 2.4. Same as 2.4 goes new Gangen from Paul or whoever
Yep.
was there first.
Yep. Paul.
I have feeling something else was there. I fixed to BRT format to make it NDN safe because old
Yeah.
one. I think that's only 3 features we have right now there.
There's the improved fast dedupe pacing. I don't think that went
Ah,
into
no.
3 after.
No, yeah, that should be no. If you talk about features like functionality, yeah, that's in 2.4. Plus, also should be. I don't think it's merged. Unified allocation throttling of mine. I must be something else. But if I speak about pull features, I think there are only those 3.
Oh, right.
Just merged
Yeah,
last
cool
moment.
features. Yep. So for any rate, is there any more feedback than what you have that we need to worry about, or do we think it's feasible to address your feedback and have that be ready?
No, all my comments say I've got to the point I've written there. Plus, no, yeah, I've written there. But honestly, it was also mentioning like Redis support in the future. It was I didn't exactly like idea of having very wide VDFs. No, I've written there on documentation also. So I don't know who would use mirror like wide mirrored VDF because it's so much decrease pull reliability comparing to with just having normal bunch of VDFs. So generally I had big feelings that it's like worthwhile to hurry last moment, especially without RedZ and with potential later changes. So
yeah, I think that makes sense.
I would leave it for later until it's fully completed.
I agree. It doesn't make sense to rush such a big change. So there's some specific candidates that you wanted to look at getting merged, ones that are smaller and are closer to the finish line, or anything else anybody wants to definitely get into 2.4?
I just had that one small ZDB change that Alexander Moten has reviewed last Friday. I should be able to address his comments in the next couple of days.
Hey, Alan, how about the ZVol changes from Rob? I know it's recent.
Which
I
ones?
don't know.
Oh, the zvol ones. That if that gets reviewed in time, I suppose that probably is help a lot. That would be good to have. Whereas I think like the Z-League thing is mostly a debugging thing, so I'm not sure that we're as worried about that.
Yeah,
Although
I
it would be
haven't.
nice to have, you know, if Ubuntu is going to ship their 2604 with basically 2.4, and then we're stuck for that for years, we'd probably want some of that stuff in there.
I haven't even looked on that. I can't say anything about it.
It's basically to let you export a fragmentation profile. So export the space map of sets of allocations from a fragmented pool so that you can have it in a test pool to create a fragmented pool in the test suite, or in our case for a bunch of the work Paul's been doing around improving performance on fragmented pools, especially with large blocks.
Yeah, it feels somewhat hackish, but I understand why it may be needed. But I just wonder whether how much we needed at 2.4, especially import part.
Yeah,
it feels
it's really a developer tool, so it probably doesn't need to be there as much.
About ZFS allow send encrypted, it seems like low hanging fruit, and I was just looking for you to update
I
there.
will try to get that finished in the next 2 or 3 days.
Yeah, would be great.
Mhm.
Next one you added there, my zero location. I don't insist on it, but I think it would be interesting from context of more active using RAID-Z VDEVs as special, which I allowed it in 2.4. And generally, if somebody have RAID-Z without any locked device or special or anything, just RAID-Z pool. But Rob commented there that maybe not very good to have locking that I added. No, it should be okay for, I think it should be okay for normally working pool, but it may slightly work against Rob's work on suspended pool recovery. It may hang more threads if it gets stuck during allocation. But then to me, as I commented there, it's a question whether we want to be able to allocate less instead of ganging versus whether we want simplified locking. I could rework in another way, dropping part of my ideas to not hold the lock during the allocation. Yeah, but it shouldn't be hard. I could do it quick around there too, but the question, what do we want?
Yeah,
So.
and I don't actually know, Cynthia, if we have a pull request for it, but Paul also worked on some stuff to use, like better make use of the embedded ZIL. So if you have a RAID-Z with no slog, of concentrating the metadata allocations, or I guess it was embedded special, like similar to what we do for embedded ZIL, and found quite significant performance improvements from that, especially around allocating and small blocks and avoiding gang blocks. And that I think might be nice to have too, but I don't know if that'll be close enough. But yeah, I think we should figure out which direction we want to go on your making ZIL allocations more flexible and do that as well.
Well, since Paul was working on allocation range logic, I specifically asked him to make that method global so that I could use it for ZIL. So I would like to hear his thoughts about it. I added him as a reviewer, but haven't heard back yet.
He'll be back next Wednesday.
Thursday.
Okay.
Yeah, he took a well-deserved vacation. Yeah.
Okay, not greatest timing.
Yeah.
Just bad timing. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the ZVol one is definitely one we'd like to have people look at and maybe get in, since that solves a pretty big problem. But yeah, I think most of the other big things, it's better to let them mature than try to rush them. Are there any other specific things that are in flight that we should talk about?
You mentioned there BigPot and force arc denote limit to 2.2. Not that I have specific objection since I already added it to 2.3, but I haven't looked whether we have any other dependencies that it may require. If somebody could look, I haven't looked honestly. Or another question, do we want in general anything in 2.2? But I'm not objecting, but it would be nice if somebody could check what's there.
Yeah, the pull request seems to be pretty clean there, but yeah, I have to look at it more closely. But yeah, Tony, what are your thoughts on how much we continue to put into 2.2?
No, at least it,
go ahead.
I was just gonna say that PR, it's not exactly backport, it's one new commit that merging a bunch of things in one commit. So it's a bit dirty. I don't know whether it could be done cleanly or it really requires so much rework. But I would prefer it to not mess up history or code.
And you were asking about 2.2 and how much we want to support that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think once we do 2.4, then 2.2 we only do like maintenance updates basically to support rel 8, which there may not be any work needed at all. Maybe if they change some of the kernel interfaces or something like that, which they do sometimes. But I can't see us doing any more 2.2 releases just for normal features after we cut off 2.4.
Yeah, it's just sort of a last moment merge. Resi expansion, multiple VDEFs. I haven't looked inside rather than it was marked as work in progress. I just remarked it. But does it require some full changes, or it can be added later, merged?
It doesn't look like it has a feature flag or anything, but that's not clear if it should.
No, considering it should, no, we should support resume of the expansion. I guess code that will be resuming should be able to handle multiple expansions. I don't know if it does, so that's kind of question. Maybe it may end up needing the flag, but I haven't looked on the patch. I don't know.
Yeah, and the patch looks quite work in progress still. There's a lot of chunks of commented out code and so on in printfs.
Yeah, it would be interesting feature. Of course, many people are requested for it, but if it's not ready, then it's not ready. I haven't seen their update for a while. About the next thing about Undirty, my biggest question there, I kind of slightly sounded it, but not too deep, that why do we have that assertion different between dirty and undirty? Is there any reason why they're different? Like, I don't object the change as it is done, just that we are certain different things. That's weird. I just wonder if it's quick change versus proper change versus proper understanding. It would be nice if somebody reviewed it from that perspective.
Yeah, it looks like Brian had an explanation about that, the difference between the dirty and the undirty version.
Really, I haven't noticed that.
It looks like it relates to zap shrinking, where it's the only case where we can be changing that.
Yeah, I may need a deeper look.
Yep.
No, I was just wondering if we are bringing some reasons there, should we also update dirty to be in sync?
Right.
And so.
Alan, what about your zpool status -vv?
Alexander Moten also made a small comment on that, which I should be able to address in the next few days, just like the ZDB one.
Yeah, because that looks like a really useful change, especially
Yeah, I hope we can get
with
that
what
one.
we've hit with one of our customers recently, where it'd be really useful to know
Oh, you're getting that
how
too.
much is one particular file actually damaged. Like, well, they have a bunch of like 30 terabyte VMDKs, and knowing if it's one bad block or 100 bad blocks makes a big difference for them.
Yeah, yeah. The great thing about this change is that it's user space only. All the kernel functionality already exists.
That does make it very nice.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, it wasn't like I had no objections, just some things could be cleaned up. I think we are
Yeah, I should be able to get to that pretty soon.
cool.
Yeah, that looks like a good one to have. I think that covers pretty much everything off the first page. Is there any, and I guess all the older stuff has not been touched in a while.
Out of the older ones was just recently merged support for TXG law or TXG timing. What I forgot, whatever it was, selective scrub.
Yes,
Oh,
the
the scrubber
date
timers.
scrub. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
Marius's, yeah. Thank you for all the support and the comments on that. I really appreciate the back and forth and that we got that closed.
Yeah, it took quite a while, but finally it's in.
Yep.
There's one more PR that I haven't decided myself what to do about it. I'm not too positive. 17168 about raw mode access support. Whether we want another way to access raw devices. At least it was on FreeBSD. I don't remember whether it mentions Linux. I guess it may be beneficial for performance to bypass block layer and geom and whatever, but I'm not sure how messy is that. So I'm a bit hesitant about it, but it's hanging there for some time since March. And we need some more ideas about it.
Yeah, I've also had my own idle thoughts about, specifically on the Linux side, of exposing zvols as character devices instead of block devices, so that the Linux buffer cache doesn't get in there and try to help. We often see it aggregating and doing weird things and resulting in like overreads when you're trying to do even just benchmarks. And wondered about having like a vol mode that makes it a character device so it doesn't do that.
Question whether we can still use it after that with different with other software parts like iSCSI target and VME target, whatever else target.
Right.
Because those actually already working in the kernel, they already bypass buffer page cache. Right. That's why we don't care so much about that. But in some other cases, it may
like
still be
QEMU,
a problem.
It's still a problem. Although in QEMU, you can specify when you open the device to do like direct IO or whatever.
Yeah, that's direct IO is somewhat sketchy use for it because if we would like to implement direct IO for the walls, as same as it is implemented for a file, that page cache should not be controlled by direct IO. It should be controlled from the wall side. But last time we looked at, I think we discussed it for even maybe a year, if not 2 years ago, somewhere on some dev summits, that there is no way to control it from the device side, from bottom.
Mm-hmm.
And if we just create character device, then again, will it work for some software?
Right. But that's just a random idea from the back of my head. Doesn't really have much to do with this particular PR, but raw mode.
Yeah, it would be out of second page. There is a wish to merge 17058 port AVX2 implementation of ISGCM from Borin SSL. I guess that should be interesting, but I haven't looked myself inside. But it seems like Brian is working on that to have it in. And there are already a number of reviews, so hopefully that's close. Even so, it's not marketed as so.
I know when we used the AVX2 version of ASGCM for HTTPS stuff, it literally like doubled the throughput. So yeah, this could be a pretty big win on, I forget what models of Intel have it, but also, and then all the Zen 3 and later AMDs, it is a pretty big win.
No, and I haven't looked whether it's related or not, maybe not, but I think there is a separate AVX2 version of SHA-256 offload that we also miss at this point.
Right.
It would be nice to implement it, but I guess it may be a separate project, unrelated. But if somebody's looking for projects, that would be really nice in context of dedupe and other usages when we care about SHA-256 throughput.
For sure.
That actually reminded me about physical rewrite. The work I have done, and that at this point, like when we have strong checksum, we could do NOP writes, and right now we disable NOP write when we are on top of dedupe. I was wondering, specifically for my physical rewrite, I was able to bypass. Practically bypass the write, effectively implementing NOP write for the rewrite. It doesn't even update logical burst time because nothing really changes. But I was wondering, should we take a closer look? Like if we get to better and faster SHA-256, we can afford it. Then should we take a look on doing
making that the default?
NOP write usable in combination with dedupe, and generally.
Right, yeah, like I don't. Is there a reason why, an actual reason why we disabled NOP write for dedupe, other than the fact that we could just dedupe it instead?
I think it's a conflict with ZIL writes with DMU sync. When you can DMU sync is not properly integrated with dedupe. It always writes the block, but then it may delete it later or dedupe it later. It's a bit weird. During block loading implementation, we actually got it to be working per TXG, so we have history of things that are written into ZIL that will be handled later, but we don't have that mechanism for dedupe. But maybe somebody could work in that direction. Because I think you, Alan, was working at some point on NOP writes to make them behave better, wasn't you? He was doing something about it.
I don't think I was changing anything about NOP writes, but we definitely have some customers that used them and ran into trouble when they were doing it wrong. Yeah, NOP write doesn't help if your writes are not aligned to your record size. Or it still helps, but you end up spending a lot of time checksumming and reading for no reason. But yeah. But yeah, I do wonder at some point if the cost of SHA-256 is low enough that it might be worth having that as the default checksum so that NOP write can actually be enabled everywhere.
Yeah, somebody
it's
somewhere
on by default now, but it's off if you're using Fletcher, which is the default checksum.
Yeah, and somebody actually mentioned somewhere on discussions that Fletcher have pretty high collision rate, even so it's the same 256. Oh, yeah, 256.
Well, it's 4 times 64 bit or something. Yeah.
Yeah, that it's was it you, Alan? I don't remember. Somebody mentioned that it's even if you look on Fletcher checksums, it really literally has plenty of zeros in front, which means it's pretty bad hash.
My previous employer paid me to calculate the collision rate of Fletcher 4 in way too much detail. For a 128 kilobyte record, you got about 4 times 10 to the minus 67 chance that any two unrelated records will hash to the same value. And the Hamming distance is 4 words, meaning if you take a 128 kilobyte record and change any 3 32-bit words, you're guaranteed to have a distinct checksum value. You need to change a minimum of 4 words to be undetected by Flutter 4.
So they're saying it's actually pretty okay, or
It
that
is
is
very
trash?
okay for if you don't have a deliberate attack, yes.
Okay.
So you should protect enough about some on disk corruption and other things.
Mhm.
No, still, those zeros were annoying. I guess
Yeah.
it's maybe still have enough bits, but yeah, if we could improve SHA, it would be.
Those zeros were helpful when I was investigating my data corruption problem. We use Flutter 4, so I can check the presence of those zeros. They should always be there, and if they're not, there's something corrupted the checksum field.
That's original.
I think sometimes I saw what looked like a pointer get written to the checksum field.
And so yeah, when you see a bunch of 0xFFs instead of 0 zeros.
But makes me wonder how that locking can help with that, because normally those locks in that area, if I remember from direct blocks, they're protecting for cases like one thread is writing block pointers, another thread will try to read them and get some half-written inconsistent state, or like two threads try to write different parts, but they shouldn't overlap. But if I don't know if they do, but again, that's why I don't think those locking should help. How that locking could help versus having there some block pointer, unless it's some use after free due to that, or I don't know.
Yes, it may be. But if it is a use after free, the locking changes still fix it. Statistically, that locking change definitely fixes the corruption.
No, it may just change some timing that fixes it, so we don't know that it's a real fix, not a coincidence. But yeah, I hear you that it helps in your case, but again, we have no idea why. I don't personally have idea why. So yeah, let's try to understand it better. Maybe we can.
Yeah, especially if it's putting what looks like a pointer in the checksum field, that doesn't feel like just concurrent access and somebody changing the block pointer. It sounds like it's getting overwritten with something that's not a block pointer, right?
Yeah, maybe one thread tried to free the block pointer before the ZIO pipeline finished writing it or something like that.
Mm. And then it got reused because it's a UMA.
I remember at some point you was mentioning resize, if I remember, or it wasn't you, not in that context. Somebody blaming resize for something, for everything practically bad, or maybe it was in case of encryption. Maybe, yeah, probably it wasn't about encryption. Okay, moving on the second one thing on the second page that hanging for way too long, but I guess would be good to have some sort of conclusion. It's NFS style ZFS ECL support for Linux. I'm trying to make our Andrew to take a look, to actually get more active there, to actually push it through the finish line. But if somebody has any comments about it, pro or contra, please step forward, because it's this version of the patch hangs since January, but previous thing hangs around maybe for a year or two. It's too long. So I'd like to bring attention. It's 16.967. I already brought it some few months back, but yeah, it's still where it was. One more thing that I wasn't sure, anybody using VChat, because there is a PR add VChat work with webhook Notify. I never even seen VChat, and I have no idea about this webhook. And if anybody could review that, I don't know whether Brian has any experience, or maybe Tony, you do, because I don't. And it's hanging from January also. It trivial change seems like, but just if I never used it, then how can I approve or disapprove? It's related to Z, so somebody who is doing something with Z could step forward.
Okay, yeah.
Sorry, which PR was that?
16981. It
Yep.
looks like it's adding like instant messaging notification to Z, the fault management thing.
Okay, I can take a look at that.
Thanks. I think it was something from your side, Tony. I think it was async notification from that, or what, async handlers, something async. I don't think it's still landed. I don't remember.
Yeah, I have the synchronous Zedlet PR out, and that's what I was working on before I left from my trip. And I think the last thing I had to do there was add a timeout.
Yeah, it
So
was
I'll try to get
discussed there. Oh, yeah. I hope you had good time, but now please get back.
back.
We missed you.
There was one more PR that's more like architectural side from Rob about add separate pipeline stages for logical I/O. It is sort of clean up to make things nicer, but one issue I see with that is that he introduces additional ZIO into the chain during practically every I/O we are doing, and ZIO right now more than kilobyte in size, so it may cost us memory, and I'm not exactly happy about that. But if anybody has other comments about it, clean ZIO pipeline, I guess, is good. I'm just not sure about the price. 17,388 if somebody wish.
Yeah, there's more work behind that. So I don't know that that's settled enough to look at merging yet anyway. But definitely interested in feedback on that.
No, if I remember correctly, I hadn't had like problem with the patch itself, like from technical side, but I wasn't happy about that additional ZIO layer.
Yeah.
I actually created.
We already have too many ZIOs.
Yeah,
in flight
exactly.
at once.
Like practically each time we start to commit transaction group, it all end up in ZIOs until it's getting written to disks. And we have small blocks like previously DDT, now BRT, or who knows what else. It will inflate our memory consumption. And we already have some customer reports that if you're trying to delete a lot of block cloning operations in one transaction group, we right now have no mechanisms that would throttle you from that, because each operation is so small.
We do that recently? I remember there was one where the bulk deleting BRT was causing like out of memory.
I don't think it was fixed. Maybe there was some
okay.
improvements, and I actually fixed some sort of accounting during when transaction is been assigned. But problems that when transaction is assigned, that memory gets accounted as freed, and the fact that we will later dirty buffers in sync context, it's not properly accounted. So we do have problem on that front, and it also getting worse with ZIO size, and significant part of that memory consumption will be ZIOs. And it's probably generally bad idea to dirty buffers so massively in sync context, but that's how both block cloning and dedupe and maybe some other things are working. But for dedupe, we at least increase the block size, so the number should drop. But BRT records blocks we still have of 4 kilobyte, so there may be plenty of them. maybe a block cloning would benefit from the same mechanism as fast dedupe. Maybe we need some fast block cloning.
Yeah, we even have a design for that. Just looking for someone interested in making it happen. Because yeah, especially when you're doing a lot of stuff in bulk, like backup software tends to do, you can very easily generate a million ZIOs.
Yeah.
And being able to just log those and have it work and update the undo structures in the background after can make a really big difference there. Yeah, the PR I was thinking of was 16722, which is already merged, which puts IO inducing free into the dead list to be processed more asynchronously, so it doesn't create quite as many ZIOs during BRTs. Or freeing stuff from BRTs.
But I think later we have mechanism to actually throttle a handling of that list in sometime later, but I don't think it's been enabled by default. I think it was implemented primarily for dedupe, but not for block cloning. And I remember we discussed it, but somehow I think at that point it was too expensive to check whether block is potentially cloned. It was before my lock and rework of BRT. Maybe now it could be actually moved on, because right now check for the block being in BRT should be much cheaper. I think it should be lockless or close to that. Okay, I guess we're getting out of time. So yes. I just like to emphasize once more that let's try to see whatever we can land in next few days so that we could branch 2.4 to not break everybody's timeline.
Yep.
So
I agree.
That should be easy few days.
Please also make your registrations for the summit. I will be posting more information about that. Mav, it would be great to have you back. Alan also, and everyone.
Yep, planning to be there.
Great.
Yep, my trip is booked also. We'll be there.
Super. Get those tickets in so we can at least see some activity. Do let me know if you have any questions, and it's your event, so if there are topics you want to discuss, let's brainstorm that in some forum, be it here or otherwise. I'm easy to find.
Great. All right.
Cool.
Thanks, everyone.
Yep. Thank you, Alan.